Welcome everybody to this webinar called Hearing Aid Prices Are Decreasing. How can you stay competitive in a changing market? This webinar is part of a series of webinars from Otometrics. A list of upcoming webinars and recorded versions of previous webinars can be found on the Otometrics website under the knowledge section. Today's speaker is Peter Kosek. Peter is a senior product manager for fitting systems at Otometrics. My name is Mette Berntsen. I'm from marketing in Otometrics, and I will be sort of the moderator or the administrator of today's webinar. And before we start, just a few practical details. All of you have been muted, and that is basically to reduce background noise during the session. You can, of course, ask questions during the session, but please use the question box in your webinar menu to the right. I will then collect the questions, and at the end of Peter's session, we will answer as many of the questions we can. In case we have any unanswered questions left, we will reply each of you via email after the session. If you experience any technical problems, please also write me, and I will do my best to help you out. So I'll hand over to Peter.
Good morning. So how to stay competitive in a changing market. This is a really kind of daily type of discussion that people have been involved in, and that also I've been a part of in my daily work. So let's look at some challenges, goals, and means. I will give my take on the conclusions, and definitely as this will be my personal view, there will be plenty of chances to ask questions. So let's get started. Well, stay competitive in a changing market. At any time, we should look at the driving forces, and in this case, I took the liberty to put the clients in the middle, because no matter what, we are serving the clients, and the clients really are the ones to give us the success or the failure that we deserve. So with them in the middle, the forces that are in play, definitely the health system sets out the framework for what can be done by the clinical community, so that based on this, staff can do their work in using technology used as tools, meaning putting into a hearing healthcare perspective to allow the industry to bring forward a performance that, with the outcome of it, hopefully should give help to the clients in accordance to the health system. You can say that this circle can start anywhere and it can end anywhere, but this is kind of one way of putting a structure onto some of the things that everybody is influenced by, and there are some relations going on back and forth between any of these categories. And definitely we feel it as an equipment manufacturer, clients feel it as being the ones being served, staff in the clinics, they definitely feel the limitations of opportunities that various elements allow them or prevent them from doing. If we look at it from the business perspective, well, as we're saying, prices are decreasing, so definitely there is a price pressure. And that price pressure may compromise the well-defined strategy and the service level that a certain business may have defined for themselves. That boils down to the topic of efficiency and productivity, because if you make less money, how can you maintain your identity in the marketplace? And finally, looking at the consolidation that is taking place, how could one put into a strategy that one's business is deliberately up for sale at some point in time, or deliberately not for sale? So these are some of the questions that arise. But no matter what, it's a matter of pluses and minuses in the business part. So on the plus side, definitely there is a wish to increase revenue. That could be by increasing the average sales prices of the hearing instrument, increase the number of clients, increase the binaural rate, because depending on which country we are looking at, in some countries the binaural rate is not very high, and definitely looking from the type of help that or benefits that patient could get, binaural rate actually is really important for the for an efficient treatment. On the minus side, there is the decreased cost element, meaning that it's not negative, but this is something that in the calculation goes in with a minus. So in order to decrease costs, reduce the return for credit is a big element, because not having a hearing aid stay at the client is not only from a business perspective point of view a lack of income, but this is also lack of help for that person who unfortunately finds him or herself in a position that that hearing aid with that particular fitting process supporting that did not turn out successfully. Another thing is to save time, and save time could be reducing a number of follow-up visits and also still retaining the quality of the services, and we will talk about how that can be done in a few minutes. And then in general, spend less time. And spend less time, it always comes back to the normal kind of way of thinking, or the usual or traditional way of thinking, that people are so focused into looking into the duration of the first visit. Definitely from a broader perspective, one should look at the time spent on a fitting life cycle, if you will, for a particular patient, so that we would start looking into the total number and duration of those visits. Moving on to the audiologist perspective, well, it's all about motivation, because it's a personal effort which is put into helping another individual and really putting forward some empathy to be able to help these people. A very important element of this is a good working environment and the ease of use, the kind of smooth way of working, which is crucial, because that has an impact on the professional pride. And if we look into the kind of what it boils down to, it is about having a professional appearance in front of the client. And from the kind of clinic owner point of view, it's a very important element that has to do with the ability to attract and keep talent, because one good or one less good person on staff can have a significant impact on the view, on the image of the entire hearing aid dispensing chain as one example. So this is really important. If you look at the client perspective, there is a big question mark. For new clients, these people have been through a denial/acceptance process that may have been going on for 7-10 years, with all kinds of frustrations for their surroundings and for them personally as well, of course. And then as people don't have any references, they have no really well-defined expectations, and maybe they just think too much about what to expect. Maybe they have heard about other cases. They may have been more or less successful, but really no own experience is kind of in the background. So it's a whole deal of uncertainty going into the mind of a new client. If you go into an experienced client, meaning a person that already has experience with a hearing aid, there is a much higher awareness as to what is going on, what to expect. And as people have a history of treatment and know kind of what the process is, and maybe got some ideas or another expectations based on their own experience, that will definitely have an impact on their attitude and the way they behave or they are to work with from the hearing healthcare professional. So there is a big distinction in between the new clients and experienced clients in this. Let's have a look at a Gyrotrac 8 analysis that was done a few years ago about reducing patient visits through verification and validation. So these numbers are from North America, and later we will look at some numbers from Europe. So first, this study looked at the correlation between dispensing protocols and successful patient outcomes. So the outcomes were divided into two groups, above and below average success. And then there were some significant differences when verification, meaning real ear measurements, and validation, such as questionnaires, were used. And in general, the kind of what it boils down to is the number of visits throughout a patient life cycle or fitting life cycle was reduced by 1.2 visit when verification and validation was applied. So that definitely kind of reflects back on that this is saving time, not only in the clinic, but definitely also for the hearing impaired person. So it's definitely a goal which is documented as being achievable, and also a very important one. So putting these protocols into the successful outcomes, what really were the key numbers of it, apart from the reduction in the number of visits? Looking at customer loyalty, we go from 14 to 81% that would buy the same hearing aid brand. So a very dramatic change in the repurchase category for the successful patient outcomes. The recommendation for the hearing healthcare professional, meaning the word of mouth kind of thing, again more than double, going from 39 to 94%. Recommendation of hearing aid, so that's about the loyalty for the brand, very important element for the hearing aid manufacturers as well. That is also almost doubling, so 97%, it's massive. And also satisfaction with benefit. There is really, imagine getting the 12% unsuccessful in for a troubleshooting session as opposed to a fine-tuning session for the satisfied client. So these are two very different mindsets, and definitely what happens in the clinic in these two situations is so difficult, and I know for myself which of these cases I would prefer to work with. And also hearing aid in the drawer, 3% versus 18%. 18% is a scary high figure, and actually not too many years ago in some countries in Europe that figure was higher. So that points back to waste of resources, lack of help. These poor people still have to fight with probably also an increasing hearing loss, which definitely all goes worse and worse and worse, and this is very unfortunate. So changing that figure to 3% is really something I would say almost as a single goal, a very important one. All right, so definitely high correlation between patient success and number of visits, and the interesting part is that 76% of the successful outcomes were made in 1 to 2 visits. Normally people say that this is not achievable, but actually this is what these numbers are saying. If we look at the below average success group, actually 47% had to spend 5 to 6 visits to actually not even be successful. So this is really a totally opposite world. So I mean, you cannot ignore this difference. This is so black and white. So as this also says that, well, you can have all the expertise, diligence, and attention, but you still need to have tools and processes that will get you from one category to the other. All this making sure that that all the changes that are happening are addressed, because these are the changes that the clients are exposed to. Let's have a look into Europe. So there was a Gyrotrac initiative from HEMA in 2009 that was looking at data from UK, Germany, and France. And it looked into the challenges and satisfaction with hearing instruments. In overall, the more hours a hearing aid is worn, the higher the satisfaction. And of course, this is logical, but it's really nice to get the numbers on which brackets these figures are in. So basically, more than half will be satisfied if they just wear the hearing aid more than 4 hours a day. And definitely that has impact on the acclimatization, the get used to the sound pressure level being increased by getting a hearing aid to make the change, to go from the kind of very muffled world into something which is hopefully very clear. More hours wearing of hearing aids also goes into the experience of how to behave in challenging situations, because this is a part of the training and counseling that one gets during the fitting process, so that you can be more aware of where to sit, how to sit, and where to orient your ears, so to speak, or hearing aids. And also what this gives is a much faster fine-tuning or troubleshooting time frame, because the quicker you can get to what is wrong, what could be better, the much faster you have a final decision on the outcome. Is this a successful or a less successful fitting? So this is extremely important to get you can say, the confidence in making the fitting process final, with hopefully a successful outcome, and hopefully not a not successful one. In a German example, the bottom line is that people are generally highly satisfied with dispensers, but still listening in difficult conditions is very challenging. So that could really translate into that there is still this pressure on the hearing instrument industry to deal with the difficult listening conditions. So it's essential to stay in sync with the latest hearing instrument technology and really practice on these latest features, because this is where most hearing aids are spending their effort in to deal with the difficult listening conditions. So making sure that, one, the hearing aid industry is actually making solutions for that are even better than the ones we have today. It's also extremely important that staff, or kind of the hearing care professionals, they practice on how to make use of it, how to apply this latest technology. And of course, it's important that when you then can administer the programming of the hearing aid, then that there is equipment around which is able to present these difficult conditions, so that you can have a verified process around getting this challenging topic resolved. Influence on purchase, because there are many parameters going into why, how, and where will I buy a hearing aid. So in this example from Germany, two elements stood out. If we look at non-owners, meaning people that have decided to purchase a hearing aid, but they have not experience with one. These people tend to see at the price of the hearing aid more than what kind of services is the hearing care professional providing. So in this case, definitely the ability to demonstrate the capabilities and the benefits that a hearing aid is able to give is very important, because people may also and will also come into the dispensing shop with probably not very realistic expectations as to kind of the price of what kind of technology they would really need, also because they don't have the experience. If we move on to the owners, meaning people that are currently wearing hearing instruments, they do have that experience, meaning that to them, the hearing care professional and the treatment is more important than the price of the hearing instrument, because now they understand what situations are they in from the first visit, and when they have to go to repurchase a hearing aid down the road, they will be kind of focusing on other things than the non-owners. So also that is pointing at several things that the dispenser should do in order to be able to serve both groups of clients. So what does it really mean? Well, so should more time be spent? Should more testing be done? And at the same time doing with fewer visits? That in many cases that would sound contradictory. But with using of instrumentation and procedures, you can really minimize some roadblocks in the process, because the hearing, the verification part will give you more knowledge based on objective input, and not only asking questions to a person which is in an awkward situation and an undesired situation, sitting in a dispensing chair. Of course, it's based on a kind of pain background, but still it is not a very pleasant situation in general, and so anything that can minimize those roadblocks in the process is important, because some of the input that a patient can give is of limited and definitely inconsistent quality to be applied in the fitting process. So so that's extremely important. You could say that one conclusion could be is to simply, in the fitting process, to take your time. And time is also not to hesitate if necessary, spending more time in the first visit. This is where you understand the client better, using questionnaires, applying counseling, and getting the individual portion of it to be able to use the technology right, and also to be able to provide the correct technology, and also the one that is substantiated to maybe go beyond what people would really expect in terms of also spending. So that has a huge impact on the type of price level that people will be looking at. So live demos on what you recommend and compare hearing aid 1 to, and have tools to do that, will bring a lot of credibility for the kind of scope on of the individual fitting. And again, using real life signals on the spot, including the challenging listening situations, is very important, because this is where reality goes into the fitting process, and where you can really address some of the situations in the first fitting, and then hopefully by doing this, well, the numbers actually show that, but then there is much higher likelihood that when the client comes back on the follow-up visits, that it will be a fine-tuning visit and not a troubleshooting visit. So the nature of that visit will be very different. And again, including objective verification, as the numbers also from Marktrack 8 were saying, this is where you can cut down the number of the amount of time that you are spending in total. You can cut down the number of visits, and in general that translates to that clients will be happier sooner. There will be less abrupt kind of emergency visits in the clinic. There will be a much smoother flow through the clinic, and in general also the image of the hearing aids will be better, because if people get a bad experience with the hearing aid, they might relate it to the fitter, or they might relate it to the hearing aid, or both. So it's really a win-win on both sides of the of this balance. So with these words, I would kind of conclude my conclusion. And who's got the first question?
Thank you, Peter, for your insight on this very interesting topic. We have a few questions in already, but otherwise, I mean, feel free to post more questions, but we'll start with this one. We have a person asking, where do I start when I'm already pressed on time?
Yeah, that's really one from the real life, because people in many cases are really pressed on time already, so they cannot see how can they apply more equipment, more procedures, training, and all this. I would say that in general, the numbers that were shown on this slide show that the necessity is there. So some footwork in order to make people that take decision is necessary, and then by allocating some initial more time, you will see that with an initial maybe slightly longer time slot for the first visit, you will see the gain of people not having to come back as many times, and then taking the liberty of really looking into the total spent time on one client. You'll see that this is working out. But where do you start with the questionnaire? Start with the validation, because this is where you get the input to the counseling, and then depending on the client, you can apply further procedures. But the biggest, you can say, saving on time is by using verification and validation as part of the process.
Okay. And we have another one here. What about the investment side of this?
Yes, because you can say that things cost, nothing is for free, but it's really interesting to see that if you for instance wanted to purchase a fitting system as the investment part of facilitating this, and you look at a normal traffic in a normal clinic with some rough numbers, you would probably be looking at that these benefits just to pay for the equipment would be like between 3 or 4 euros per hearing aid. This is the additional cost, roughly, to have better quality and also to kind of smoothen out the workflow in the clinic, the logistics in the clinic, and definitely to get happy customers sooner, because these tools will reduce the number of visits necessary.
Okay. And another one here, what you describe here is a bit more elaborate than what many of us do or use today. Would you recommend using this process for all clients?
Well, definitely I would, because then from a consistency point of view, you would people are different, but you need the same confidence, you need the same but individual information about where this is going. So yes, but different kind of partial procedures could be applied in the beginning, and that is also depending on the plan, what is achievable in a certain setting to get started. But yes, I would definitely recommend to do it with all clients, because this is where you know what is happening. This is where you can be confident that you did what you could for that particular patient.
Okay, and we have no other questions at this point. Let's see if the audience have anything else. Nobody is typing. Okay, I mean, I think we'll close the question session for here then. Today's webinar will be available in a recorded version. A link will be sent to all of you that have attended here today, but it can also be found directly on the Otometrics website, along with a list of other webinars that have already been held or will come in the following time. Please make sure to spend a few minutes giving us feedback on today's webinar. If you have any additional questions after that, feel free to email either Peter or myself, and we will, reply you back as soon as we can.